it's Ash from Super Videos back for another live stream Q&A. This is Q&A 181. We're going to be talking about The Walking Dead Season 10 Episode 5, which was called What It Always Is. A pretty good episode, but an even better episode, Episode 6, which was called, or I'm hoping an even better episode, Episode 6, which is going to be called Bonds. Both are Negan-centric, and I think that's a big part of why Episode 5 at least was very entertaining. With that, I'm going to jump right into the questions. Epic Zombie Killer, Q&A. Hey Ash, do you think Negan will get the comic story arc and kill Alpha? It kind of feels like it to me. I absolutely feel like that's where they're heading with it. Everything's basically set up for that to happen. Now, I think Carol is going to play a part in this. I don't exactly know how much part at this point. I've made my predictions before, but I think Carol is going to have some part in this. Whether that part is small, big, I don't know. And it's really difficult to say at this point because they've kind of been teasing or setting it up or building it up for both to get that iconic moment. And even if they change that moment and have it happen a different way, they're still building both Negan and Carol to be the ones that take out Alpha. So it's extremely difficult to say at this point. But I think it's more likely at this point that it's going to be Negan, just like the comics, but we don't know. Epic Zombie Killer Q&A. Hey Ash, overall, how do you feel about TV Alpha? I feel she's way more brutal and savage than the comic version so far. I do like her as a villain. Absolutely. I think there's a couple things in the TV show that make Alpha better than the comics. One is Samantha Morton's portrayal of Alpha. I think the way she plays Alpha is just, it just makes you feel like this character is evil, but at the same time, they have a lot of layers to them. Not that they're good outside of being evil in front of everyone, not that, but they have these different layers to them. Partly it's because they didn't actually concentrate on that in the comics, but at the same time, I think the way she plays it is just extremely well done, and it brings out the character more. The other part of it is, like I mentioned, they added some layers to Alpha's story that wasn't in the comics. For example, her affection towards Lydia was at the surface in the comics for the most part. In the TV show, they have kind of fleshed that out even more. At the same time, the beta-alpha relationship, they've definitely fleshed that out even more. And the other part of it is that they have shown Alpha to be not only a savage and brutal leader when she needs to, but she's calculated. She does everything for a reason. And that's not something that I got out of the comic book version of Alpha, which they're doing a very good job in the comics. And I think all of these together make Alpha in the TV show a lot better than the comic version. Giuseppe De Rosa, did this just start? Yes, it did, like 5 minutes ago. Giuseppe De Rosa, what if when Maggie comes back, she tells them that they can treat Ezekiel's cancer and Michonne decides to take Ezekiel to Georgie? That's actually a very good prediction for the most part. I do like your idea about Maggie telling them about the capability that Georgie's community might have that might be able to cure Ezekiel's cancer. I like the idea that that might be something that takes Ezekiel out of the picture. For now, I do definitely love that as well. The part with Michonne, I don't see it fitting. There's more characters that might fit that better to take Ezekiel there. Sadiq, for example, or someone else. I don't think Michonne would leave everyone in this scenario specifically or especially to take Ezekiel to get treated. Not that she doesn't care, but at the same time, I feel like for her, there are things that are more priority. Not that she doesn't want Ezekiel to go, but she probably won't want to go herself. Epic Zombie Killer, I can barely hear you, bro. I hope this helps. The sound was or the audio was a little low. I hope that's better. Giuseppe De Rosa, yeah, Ash fixed the audio. It's kind of low. Let me know if it's better before I continue. So I'll just take a few minutes pause just to make sure the audio is good before we continue. Epic Zombie Killer again, I can barely hear you. Let me know if it's good. And let me know if there's any part of the previous questions you want me to repeat, if it didn't come through. Epic Zombie Killer, oh, that's better. Perfect. Again, let me know if you want me to repeat any of the responses from the previous questions, or just ask it again if you want me to talk about it again. Giuseppe De Rosa, I'm going to watch the new episode after this stream. You get to watch it early. I'm kind of jealous, but I have to wait till Sunday. I hear that it's a very, very good episode from people who have watched it a little bit early. Giuseppe De Rosa, Negan is an interesting character. Absolutely. Epic Zombie Killer Q&A hash, do you think Negan will kill Alpha like he did in the comics? So that was the first question again. Yeah, I can repeat that for sure. So I think everything they've built up so far points towards it being Negan. But at the same time, they have definitely given us some teases or some build up for it going to Carol. So it's extremely difficult to say at this point, but I definitely feel like even if it goes to Negan, even if Negan gets that, Carol is going to have a part in it in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how big or small that part is going to be, but I feel like Carol is going to have a big part in it, or a part in it. And I think they've definitely done this on purpose for us not to be able to immediately say it's going to be Negan and then, expect it. So to make it more shocking, surprising, they're going to make us or keep us guessing until it happens. And it's part of why they have build up both Negan and Alpha to be the one that get that. And I definitely think that's a smart move. Giuseppe De Rosa, will Carol survive till the end? I think Carol and Daryl at this point have the highest chance of surviving all the way to the end of the series. For sure. They're definitely the faces of the show at this point. Especially after Michonne leaves. They will be the faces of the show. Giuseppe De Rosa, can you see the show ending with Rick, Daryl, Carol, Michonne, and Maggie alive? Yes, and yes. For all of them. For all of them. Now, whether they will be in the actual final episode, that remains to be seen. Or, that's difficult to say at this point. But they will all be alive when the show ends. I strongly feel that way, but I don't necessarily feel that they will all be in the final episode when there's or if there's a final episode. Epic Zombie Killer, I just feel like since episode 5 ended with him meeting Beta, that he's getting the arc. Absolutely, and that's a big part of it. Everything Negan's done so far, where his story arc has gone, it's been pointing towards that ending from the comics. But at the same time, Carol has definitely got some build-up and some setup as well. So it's difficult to say. And why? Going back to what I said, which is that I think Carol is going to have a big part in it, there's definitely setup for that as well. And that's why I kind of came up with that idea to begin. The setup is that Negan is at the Whisperers camp in the next episode. Carol and Daryl try to find the Whisperers horde, and they're likely to be at the Whisperers camp around the same time Negan is there. And there's a chance that they could have a scenario where they're trapped, at least Carol. And then she could find herself crossing paths with Negan. And that would be very, very interesting, especially if we look at the other theory that was going around, which is that Carol is the one that let Negan out to do the dirty work in a way for her, because she couldn't do it because her hands were tied. So if you think about that, that could make things extremely interesting. And it could definitely make both of those storylines come together in a very dynamic and interesting way. In a way where both will have a part in Alpha's demise. Giuseppe De Rosa, I'm excited for the new episode. It looks interesting. Yeah, it definitely looks interesting. The fact that we're going to see Negan and Beta, that's a selling point on its own. The fact that we're going to see our first official Commonwealth tease, that's a selling thing on its own. The fact that we're going to see Alpha and Negan most likely interact, that's another selling point for this episode. And I think there's just a lot of great comic stuff specifically coming up in this episode that's going to make this episode stand out more than the other episodes. Epic Zombie Killer Q&A. Hey Ash, since Maggie is returning to The Walking Dead, how will she react to Enid, Jesus, and Tara being dead? She's definitely going to have a lot to catch up on. I mean, looking at Enid alone, Maggie and Enid were extremely close, so it's going to hit her extremely hard. Jesus and Maggie, again, very close. Jesus was the reason Maggie became leader. So that's also extremely difficult for Maggie to take in, that death, especially when you put that with Enid's death, especially when you put those with Tara's death. And Tara and Maggie, again, they go a long way back. I think Maggie and Tara have a longer relationship than, or had a longer relationship than Maggie and Enid did even, right? If I'm not wrong. So I think it's going to hit Maggie extremely hard. And the other part of it is that but all of those deaths were brutal. And, well, Jesus not so brutal as unexpected, but Enid and Tara, obviously. And all of those deaths had something to do with the Whispers. So I'm curious to see whether when Maggie returns, the Whispers are going to be around. Because she's going to have enough rage in her learning about all of those things at once to be a force to be reckoned with against the Whispers. So I'm extremely curious to see whether Maggie coming back is going to fit into the picture as long as the Whisperer story arc is concerned. Giuseppe De Rosa, I haven't been very excited for an episode in a while. Absolutely. The last time I was this excited about an episode was in season 9, the second last episode to the finale, where we saw the Pike scene. And before that, I think, when was it? It has to be the 701 episode before that one. So yeah, if you kind of put those together, it's been a long time. Not a long time if you consider season 9's episode, but I feel like that episode, you could consider that episode for sure, but at the same time, what am I trying to say here? So yes, season 9 episode 15 was great, but it was all about just a single moment, right? 701, also about a single moment, right? But then in this episode, in the next episode, it's not really about a single moment. It's about the kind of interactions and the whole thing in itself. So it's definitely been a long time, because I can't think of the last episode where I was excited for the entire episode, not just a single moment in an episode. I hope that makes sense. Giuseppe De Rosa, Daryl is the Wolverine of The Walking Dead. Epic Zombie Killer Q&A. Hey Ash, the Whisper Pike moment affected everyone, but Carol and Siddiq were affected the most, especially Carol. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why they've got this much story or this much attention in season 10, because they were the pivotal characters in that lineup scene, or the characters that were impacted the most, like you said, from that lineup massacre. So that's why they have so much attention on them this season. Rebecca Mendez, season 10 has been so good. Absolutely. It hasn't beat season 9 for me yet, but we'll see. Season 9 was just very, very special. And before that, season 6 was my favorite season. But then season 9 just blew my mind because there was a lot of great stuff in there. The Whisperer stuff, obviously. The Rick stuff were great. And if you kind of put all of those little and big moments together, season 9 has got to be the best season ever, if not close to it. For me, it definitely is the best season. And, I thought season 10 was going to beat it easily. It hasn't been able to do that yet, but it's definitely still early to kind of go with that and say season 10 is not the best season. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. But, yeah, I'm loving season 9 so far, nevertheless. Yankees tailgate. What episode will Alpha die? If you're asking my predictions when I think she'll die, I think either 10:08, which is the mid-season finale, or 10:09, which is the mid-season premiere. One of the two. And that's my predictions. That's not like a spoiler or anything. I don't have spoiler information if that's what you were waiting for or hoping for. Giuseppe De Rosa, I feel the way the group reacted to Carl's death was poorly done. Absolutely. I think the only two characters that reacted to, actually three, that reacted to Carl's death in a way that made sense and it wasn't underwhelming. It was Michonne, or Rick first, then Michonne, then Negan. All of those characters, I feel like they reacted to Carl's death in the best way possible, and it wasn't underwhelming. The rest of the characters, it was just disappointing to say the least. Epic Zombie Killer, Maggie will absolutely hate Alpha because she killed 3 people that Maggie loved. Absolutely. And and I just realized something after you said this comment. Assuming Negan kills Alpha, that's one hell of a way for him to redeem himself in front of Maggie. Maggie loved 3 people that Alpha killed. Negan could be like, I killed Glenn and I've been paying for that decision ever since. And I don't expect you to ever forgive me for that, but, I hope this goes a small way into that kind of, or go towards a scenario where you could live, or you could basically live to see me around, or not want to kill me, or be happy that I'm not in a cell and just be free at least. So I don't know if that made sense or not, but I think that's a great way for Maggie or for Negan to come out in front of Negan, for Negan to come out in front of Maggie. There we go, as a changed man. Giuseppe De Rosa, not including Rick and Michonne. Yeah, and that goes back to how the characters reacted poorly to Carl's death. Yeah, and I would, like I said, I would put Negan in that as well. Rebecca Mandas, this next episode is supposed to have some humor and levity, I have heard. Absolutely. I think when you have Negan around, you're always going to have humor. But when you have Negan and Beta around, it's going to be entertaining to watch. Because one is extremely talkative. He cracks jokes always. I'm talking about Negan, of course. The other is very serious, is very kind of closed off, and that's Beta. So putting those together, you're going to see some interesting and entertaining moments. And we saw part of that in the sneak peek, and I can't wait to see more of things like that in the next episode. Rebecca Mendes, I agree, De Rosa, about Carl's death. Yeah, other than the 3 characters, Michonne, Rick, and Negan, I feel like everyone else kind of reacted to it in a very underwhelming way. Giuseppe De Rosa, could this new episode be funnier than the one where we are introduced to Jesus? Absolutely. That episode was just fun for like 5 minutes. This episode is gonna be fun for an entire episode, like 45 minutes or close to that. So I definitely think it's going to be more funny than that. Epic Zombie Killer, pretty much the entire second half of season 9 was setting up the Pike moment. Yeah, pretty much. It pretty much was. It was setting up the Whispers introduction. And the Whispers introduction is very much a part of the Pike scene. You know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely. Tammy Hill, I think that between Eugene and Siddiq, maybe they will come up with a way to use the radiation from the satellite to help the Zeke cancer, at least hold it at bay. Absolutely. And I talked about that on the other video that I did. I think, like I said in the other video, if you have a great scientist like Eugene, you put him next to a doctor like Siddiq, you're going to be able to find something where they're going to be able to not completely cure, but help in treating it a little bit quicker or a little bit better than they would have been able to, either separately or if it was just another kind of person, not a doctor or a scientist. Tammy Hill, until they go to the Commonwealth. Absolutely. And I think I didn't really think about this before, but these questions kind of give me an idea, or not give me an idea, but make it clear that they are definitely setting up Commonwealth even in that regard. Even when you look at Ezekiel and his situation, because what better way to tease the Commonwealth or make the Commonwealth relevant in the story than to have the group want to go there because they want to treat Ezekiel's cancer, and they hear or they have confidence that they can do it for them there. And I definitely think that that's a great addition. If that's what they're doing it here, I absolutely love it. And it makes this Ezekiel being sick stuff even more interesting and even more satisfying and relevant to the story. Rebecca Mendez, don't know the Rosa, we will have to see. About if it's going to be funnier than the Jesus episode, or the episode Jesus is introduced. I think it will be. I think it easily will be. Yankees tailgate, is Siddiq a traitor? I don't think so. I think he might have had to make a pretty tough decision, but I don't think he's a traitor. I talked about that in depth on another video. You can go and check it out. But I don't think he's a traitor. I don't think that label kind of fits for Siddiq's story right now. I think he had to just make a very tough decision. Epic Zombie Killer season 10 is definitely Carol's season. She's been a huge focus so far. I completely agree with you. Every episode, maybe excluding just one, which was even in episode 2, she was not the focus, but she popped in at the end. I think there was only maybe just one episode where she wasn't even in the episode. And that may have been in the previous episode when Negan escapes, right? Or was she there? I don't remember. But I think she's been in every single episode so far. Rebecca Mendez, killer, she's out for revenge. We're talking about Carol, I think. Yeah, definitely. And that goes back to our earlier discussion. They're teasing the Alpha Carol showdown, and they're making the reward for this whole build-up be Alpha or Carol killing Alpha. So I won't be disappointed if Negan does it, but at the same time, like I said, they're setting it up for both to be able to be the one that get that. Giuseppe Darosa, what if Alpha is choking Carol to death and Carol is about to die and Maggie comes on out of nowhere, shoots Alpha, killing her? That would be epic. That would be epic, but at the same time, it's kind of like the writers pulled it out of their ass in a way. So it's a little bit underwhelming in that sense. Yeah, it's epic, shocking, but You know, is it, what do you call it? Does it really make sense? Not really. In terms of the story and what we've seen so far. If Maggie's nowhere to be seen and then she pops up and kills Alpha, that's kind of like a WTF moment that probably has more negative consequence or negative impact than a positive impact. Tammy Hill, I'm also hoping that when Brendan and the mother and son are found dead, they don't think Negan killed them all. Oh, that's a very good point. Yeah, that's a very good point. I don't know how they're going to play that off if they actually do find the bodies, which is likely. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Negan will come off as really, really bad there. Coming off of what happened the previous episode where he escaped or ran away, that would be nothing compared to this. Because in this one, he killed 3 people and they don't know if it's accident or not, but brutally in a way. And the kid was involved. So yeah, I could definitely see how this is going to be super bad for Negan if they find the bodies and think that Negan did it. Epic Zombie Killer Q&A, I'm interested to see Maggie's reaction to Negan being out of the cell. Absolutely. And going back to what I said earlier, I think if Negan gets the kill, that would be a great way for that to be the thing that redeems Negan in front of Maggie. As a thing that makes Maggie accept the fact that Negan has changed and he could be a free man. Giuseppe De Rosa, who's more terrifying, the Saviors or the Whisperers? If by terrifying you mean literally terrifying, I would say the Whisperers. But if you mean like brutal and just savage, I would say still the Whisperers. But the Saviors, if they are not in line, or if Negan didn't put them in line, or have them be in line and not just kill everyone, they would maybe be just as bad as the Whisperers. Epic Zombie Killer, like the last time Maggie saw Negan, he was in a cell. Now, how will she react to him being a free man? She would definitely not react in a positive way, that's for sure. Giuseppe Rosa, what if Angela Kang wrote season 7 and 8? They would have been a lot better, to give you a short answer. And there would have been more character development, interactions between characters we want to see, interactions between, and just more exciting and interesting story arcs, I would say. Giuseppe De Rosa, Eugene is probably the most useful character in the apocalypse. Absolutely agree with you on that. That's why he's still alive. Let's be honest. And I don't mean just from a survivalist perspective, like the survivor's not killing him or protecting him or always protecting him, but even the writers. The writers, I don't think they're going to kill Eugene easily like that. Because they could get away with a lot of crazy stuff and just say it was Eugene who did. You know, it's Eugene. What can you expect? Epic Zombie Killer, by the way, I'm not complaining. I love Carol, so I'm glad she is a big focus this season. She's an amazing character. Absolutely. At this point, she's definitely my favorite character so far. From looking at it from season 9 forward, I would say. Or even before that. But season 9 forward, she became my favorite character after Rick left. Rebecca Mendez, what are your death predictions for the rest of the season? I will definitely do a new death prediction video for the second half. But just to give you a very short kind of death predictions for the next 3 episodes until the mid-season, I would say someone from Magnus Group. I always have one of them because they've been surviving, or they've been making it out, and I don't know if they will continue to do so. One from Magna's group, then I would say, who else? I don't think Ezekiel is going to die. I think he's good. Siddiq. I think Siddiq is another one that might be dying. So someone from Magna's group, and I'm putting my I'm picking Kelly for now. But also next up is Siddiq. Luke as well. Luke has a chance of dying as well. Giuseppe De Rosa, what if Arnold played as Negan? I don't think anyone else can play Negan the way Jeffrey Dean Morgan has played him. So I don't think we could have gotten a better Negan. Rebecca Mendez, do you think Doug will get more screen time in the second half? I don't think so. I think Doug, I don't know if it's a he or a she at this point. It'll get the same amount of screen time it's gotten so far. Just pops up here and there when Daryl is around. Tammy Hill, I think that Alpha is going to send Gamma inside Alexandria, and I think it may backfire on her. Gamma is struggling right now. Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. This is based on a scene that was in the last episode. Now, the way I read that scene, which was Alpha telling Gamma you might have to wear a new face, the way I saw that, I thought that she was telling Gamma to kill Aaron. That's the way I read it. Now, looking at it in retrospect, I think that's probably not what they meant, and it's closer to what you said, which is Gamma can take off the mask and pretend to be a survivor at Alexandria and use Aaron to get an advantage somehow. Yankees tailgate. Give me your favorite Walking Dead villains, show versus comic. Mine is the Governor show, Negan comic. Mine would be, in the show, it's Negan. No, actually, sorry. In the comic, it's Negan. In the show, it's the Whisperers and Alpha specifically. Giuseppe De Rosa, what if they cast Kevin Hart as Negan? That would have been ridiculous, to be honest with you. Did it just skip a bunch of questions? Anna Twink, hi, how are you, Anna? Glad you could join. Epic Zombie Killer, Q&A, hey Ash. Out of the characters, Negan is the only one where his story is pretty much the same as the comics. Yeah, his story has stayed closest to the comics, I would say. Aside from, like, Rick or Carl. Even Carl, they changed his story a little bit here and there. Tammy Hill, I'm also wondering if Negan will mention Lydia and stir up all kind of crazy amongst her whisperers, who she told Lydia was dead. It depends how Negan wants to come off. Does he want to come off as a person who was at Alexandria and ran away? Or does he want to come off as someone who doesn't even know about these characters or these people or these communities? It really depends. But that would be a good way for him to create some conflict within the Whisperers camp, if he wants to. Tammy Hill also wondering if Negan will mention... Oh, I just read that one. And we are 38 minutes in, so I'll go for another maybe 5 minutes and then we'll end it. So I'll try to get through some more questions in that time. Epic Zombie Killer Q&A hash. I hated Brendan. I was so happy when Negan killed him because... or especially after he killed the mother and son. Absolutely. The moment I saw Brendan... well, in the show, I knew he was a dead man. And that's not just looking at the comic. That's also, well, especially the last episode where he actually was with Negan. In that episode, because everything he said, it was obvious the writers put that in there to make us hate this character, so we don't have a problem with Negan killing him. And I think it definitely worked. Giuseppe De Rosa, what if Alpha met Lizzie? Lizzie would have fit right in at the Whisperers camp, I think. She would have loved Lizzie. Alpha, I mean. Yeah, Alpha would have loved Lizzie. She was very twisted, as many of the Whisperers are, or most of them are. Epic Zombie Killer Q&A, by the way, I felt so bad for Lydia when, or like she had nothing to do with the Pike moment, and the people at Alexandria are so mean to her. Absolutely, and I think it's a matter of she's the weakest person that they could relate to the Whisperers, that they could pick on. That's all it was. Tammy Hill, I still think that it was either Daryl or Carol who let Negan out. I think it was Carol. I strongly think it was Carol. Epic Zombie Killer, what Gage did to her was sick and made me hate him. Absolutely. Rebecca Mendez, what do you think the future holds for Lydia? I think Lydia at this point is probably a longer term character than we anticipated. She's probably going to be there for a little bit longer, probably for a long, long time. She has that connection to Carol, Daryl, and Negan, all of which are permanent characters. So, if you really want to kind of stir up some interesting storyline and something that impacts all of those characters, you could have Lydia die. But you could also build up Lydia to be a bigger, better character, especially now that we don't have as much. The previous characters, the big characters have left. And in a way, Lydia could take Carl's arc in terms of being that future of the show. Obviously, Judith can get that, but until Judith is old enough for that story to make, or that to make sense and for it to work, you could give that to Lydia for sure. Giuseppe De Rosa, Magna has been very bitchy and annoying. Absolutely. The one thing I hate about this season, it's what they're doing with Magna. I loved what they did with Magna last season. This season, I just hate everything they do with Magna. Giuseppe De Rosa, I don't understand what she's mad at. Exactly. That's why I'm frustrated with that story as well. Because it's, what do you call it? There's no setup. There's no reasoning. It's just out of nowhere. Tammy Hill, I think it would have been awesome if Winnie turned out to be Gamma. Absolutely. And I would have loved that as well. But obviously they didn't do that. We talked about that before, but they chose not to do that. I think it would have fit right in, but it is what it is. Rebecca Mendez, yeah, Magna is being lame. Absolutely. Epic Zombie Killer, speaking of Doug, he's not always in the scenes with Daryl. Yeah, exactly, but when he's there, Daryl is always around. Doug is not there unless Daryl's there. Anna Twink. Henry Rollins could have played Negan, but he is 10 years too old, sadly. Yeah, I think that would have been also a pretty good choice for Negan too. Giuseppe De Rosa, who's going to kill Gamma? It's a very good question. I think Gamma's going to die by the hand of a Whisperer. Maybe Alpha. I don't think Gamma's going to be killed by one of the survivors. Now, I'm not saying that she's going to double cross the Whisperers and join the survivors and die afterwards. That's not what I'm saying. But she's unstable in a way. She's shown to be unstable. So I think she might find herself in a situation where she messes things up and Alpha's going to have to put her down. Something like that. Giuseppe De Rosa, what if Simon beat Negan? Then I think All Out War would have been more bloody and it would have had more casualties. And at the end of the day, I think the Saviors would have been defeated, but a lot of people from the Survivor side would have died. Maybe 80% of the Survivors population might have died in that battle or in that war. Because Negan was a lot more lenient in certain scenarios, and Simon would have just wanted to kill them all. Rebecca Mendez, Negan is supposed to be based off of Henry Rollins, but I think he's too short. Yeah, I've heard that before, that he was based off of Henry Rollins in real life. Giuseppe Rosa, how would Shane deal with the Whispers? That's a good question. I would say what Shane would have done is probably closer to what Carol is doing. Find the herd, destroy the herd, then go for Alpha to kill Alpha. Anna Twink, I'm also excited for the Commonwealth and even Maggie coming back. Over Maggie now. Yeah, I'm very excited for the Commonwealth for sure, and Maggie. I'm very interested to see how they're going to bring Maggie back and how she fits into the current storyline, or whether they're going to bring her in or bring her back after this story with the Whispers is over. Giuseppe Rosa, Alpha is a badass leader. She rules by fear. Or she, not a badass, you said bad leader. Sorry, my bad. Alpha is a bad leader. She rules by fear. Absolutely. That's how Negan did it as well, in a way, but Negan was a lot better than Alpha. Epic Zombie Killer, Q&A, hey Ash, how long do you see Ezekiel lasting? Will he make it to season 11? I think there's a very good chance at this point that he will survive till season 11. Giuseppe Rosa, I bet Jeffrey Dean Morgan has a hell of a time playing Negan. I think so. I think he has the most fun playing the character, or playing their character than any other character. He gets to do all kind of cool stuff, say all kinds of cool stuff. So I think he's loving playing the character. Anna Twink, they are kind of ruining her. Where was I? Anna Twink, they are kind of ruining Magnus' character. The food that doesn't make sense. Oh, the food theft that doesn't make sense. Absolutely, I agree with you on that. It's just out of nowhere. Alright, we've been going for 47 minutes, so I'm going to run through these remaining questions quick. This will be my final question that I'm going to answer from a new user. I haven't seen them before. So that'll be my final question I'm going to answer here. Epic Zombie Killer, which is weird because Magna is a fan favorite in the comics. They showed they're making her unlikable. Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with Magna in the show. I just hope that they have a good long-term story for her, and they're not just making her unlikable for no reason. Giuseppe De Rosa, Magna barely does much in the comics. Yeah, I was gonna say, she was in a way a fan favorite, but they didn't really do much with her. Epic Zombie Killer plus the comic version of Negan is based on Henry Rollins. Yeah, we talked about that before. Giuseppe De Rosa, who's the most useless character on The Walking Dead? I would say Tara in season 8. Useless character. I would say, yeah, Tara in season 8 for sure. That was a good one. Yeah, I would say. Giuseppe De Rosa, what if Christian Bale played the governor? I don't see him as the governor, honestly. You need for the governor, you need someone with a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of charisma, but when you see the face and the expressions, You can tell this character is evil, pure evil. Tammy Hill, I think Gamma will become part of Alexandria just like some of the saviors did. There's a possibility of that for sure. And at Tammy Hill, I agree. I think she's going to become a regular. I think there's definitely a possibility of that. Anna Twink, I'm not excited for the Commonwealth. It's a big yawn. I am also over Maggie. LOL. Yeah, the Commonwealth thing. I hope they improve it in this show for sure. But the Maggie thing, I'm definitely interested because I want to see how they bring her back. Giuseppe De Rosa, Chandler Riggs did a great job acting in season 1, 2, and 3, but after that, his acting got a little sloppy. I would agree with that. BSG kills shots. Do you think that Negan will kill Alpha in the next episode? Or a couple of episodes? Yes, my prediction is Negan kills Alpha in the mid-season finale. That's my prediction. Epic Zombie Killer, you skipped my comment. Oh, I was going to end here, but you skipped my comment. Which comment did I skip? And yeah, these two will be my final one. There's no more questions after anyway. I don't know which one I skipped. Was it this one? We talked about that before though. Yeah, comic version of Negan was based on Henry Rollins. Kirkman, I think, confirmed that. Giuseppe De Rosa, Beta versus Negan. Hand to hand, I would say Beta. But Negan is more of a what's that word? He uses a lot more strategy. So he could use that to his advantage. And he would come on top that way. Governor and Simon, Governor would beat Simon easily. Alright, that's the final one. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining and asking questions. Hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. Stay tuned for another Q&A Sunday at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Obviously, it's going to be before the next episode airs. I'm going to see the episode when it airs. I'm not going to be able to watch early, so don't spoil it for me in that Q&A. Or if you watch early, but that's pretty much it. That's all that I have time for right now. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys soon.